And we're live. All right, good to see everyone today. I think most of you know me. I'm Chris Vogt out in Auburn, California, commercial real estate specialist. Been in commercial real estate since I was in fifth grade when when I was involved with my parents in buying, leasing, and selling commercial real estate here in California. That was our part of our family business. And then in the 80s, after graduating from college, I went into financial planning, became a certified financial planner. And as a certified financial planner, I helped a lot of people with their business planning. I specialized in small business owners and executives. And as part of that process, I had the pleasure of working on a number of real estate transactions, both residential and commercial, as part of the advisory team. And I do not know Billy in Auburn, but thanks for asking, Dan. Auburn, we're big enough that they keep talking about a Costco and a Walmart going in, but you know that not in my backyard. Let's drive down the hill to Sacramento to go shopping. Kind of persist in our little community here. Um, but anyhow, it's fun and I'm enjoying business brokerage because it's kind of what I was doing anyhow as a consultant, is helping people build their businesses, prepare them for sale, talking about continuity planning and all that. And one of the things that I was able to do is I did a computer talk show for 6 years in the 90s. And so every Saturday was on the radio talking about technology. And the reason I quit doing the computer talk show was because I ended up doing a hostile takeover in the Silicon Valley. And I ran a company there from the fall of 1999 until the summer of 2004 when I retired. And so our clients were all the big tech companies in the Silicon Valley. So I had some interesting experiences going into clean rooms and fabs and things like that. And so technology has been of a lot of interest to me. I actually wrote 3 books on technology that were published by an imprint or Random House. And I wrote numerous magazine articles in regional and national magazines on technology also. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of my background and explains why I'm interested in artificial intelligence, chat GPT. As all of you know, we're recording this session, and with Tanya's permission, I'll be posting this on my YouTube channel afterwards. So let's make sure that we keep our conversation so that we can post it on YouTube and other people can benefit from that. Does that sound good to everyone? Awesome. Really
That's
appreciate you.
great. Thanks.
So I'd
No
like to
problem.
start out by getting an idea of what are you doing with artificial intelligence and just right now, what tools are you using? And they could be tools that have been integrated into another tool that you use, or they could be experimentation that you've been doing. But let's just start by figuring out, where are you with AI? Who'd like to go first? Jordan, I see your mic open. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go first, but I imagine that I'm where most people are. I'm sort of in my late 30s and not a technology geek by any means. But boy, am I interested in AI. We talked about ChatGPT, I think on a similar conference call about a month ago, and so I just tooled around on it and saw the what it can produce in a with the information that it had, and it was just sort of incredible. And it had my mind running on, say, communication. It could write an email, say, or communicate some sort of information that I'd like to communicate, but produce that in seconds. when it would take me maybe an hour and a half to produce a good email, because I can get an outline by giving some information. I can edit the outline by providing feedback, and that feedback loop happened so quick. It made me think that if I wanted to become a content creator, that's not, if that was a 40-hour a week job, it just became a 4-hour a week job potentially with AI. But I haven't used it in any respect, but I'm super curious about it. But that's where I'm at.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. All right, Dan, your hand is up. You've got the floor.
Yeah, I've got two things that one is really simple and the other one actually is really super cool. The simple one is we just launched a YouTube channel with me and my partners, and so I've been using the AI just to kind of figure out what talking points and then key points within those talking points, so that we've always got fresh videos that are coming up and whatnot. The really cool one, I had lunch with a guy last week, and he had kind of talked to me about this, and I've been all over this. I've been asking ChatGPT to write me Python scripts to scrape the internet for, like, for example, I'm selling a hotel in Texas right now. And I just basically said, hey, can you write me a Python script that will, scrape the web for hotel owners in Mexico, and then take that script and transfer it into an Excel format. And it did. And, it's kind of put that together. I've still got to kind of figure out how to do that to a greater depth, but just being able to, I didn't even know that was an available thing. So that was really cool.
Cool. I love it. So I have a little bit of programming background. How much programming background do you have, Dan?
None. I mean, except for basic stuff within like Excel. I know how to do, things in there, but that's about it.
Scripts and formulas type thing.
Right.
Okay. And so Python is something that has interested me. And I've been very busy since January working on some other projects. But one of the things that I've been wanting to do is actually use ChatGPT or another AI tool to build some Python programs and use them for scraping data like you did. So if you don't mind, I'd love to hop on another call with you afterwards and talk about what you did a little bit more, and maybe we can share information back and forth.
Yeah, happy to.
Okay, awesome. And who else would like to share what they're up to?
I mean, on a very basic level, at least on the real estate side with my wife on the residential side, she's, got like AI in her CRM and everything. So, it's interesting to see it have conversations with clients that we don't even know is going on. And then we get a phone call or a text, and they're like, oh yeah, we've been talking to you for months, so we figured we'd give you a call. And then you look back in the CRM and it's literally had like full blown conversations about their house and their life. And, of course, the more you use it, the more you play with the CRM, the more it learns kind of your methodology, I guess. Like if you don't do anything in the CRM, it won't really get creative. But if you start interacting, that it will, interact more like you, I guess is probably the better way to say it.
Yeah.
So
one of the things that
yeah.
Fascinates me, because I try to stay plugged into this stuff, is how it's advancing so rapidly from week to week. And it was just within the last couple of weeks that we actually saw the ability of ChatGPT or other AI tools to call other specialized tools and say, hey, I want you to work on this other thing. So how many of you have heard of Hugging Face? Anyone? Hugging Face? No? Okay. So Hugging Face is a collaborative community.
Whatever that is also.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Matt.
I said, whenever you get a minute with this Hugging Face, like what's Python as well?
Oh, okay, great. Happy to share all of that. So first of all, Python is a programming language. My son-in-law, he fell in love with my daughter. They got married. So my son-in-law is taking programming, and I said, "Hey, are you studying Python in school?" And he's like, "Well, Python is actually more of a non-corporate type programming language, but it's very popular in the development community." And so I was surprised for him to hear him say that it's not used in corporate settings as much. Because when you go out and you look on the internet, it's like everyone is programming in Python, especially in the AI community, and using Python to perform tasks. So for example, one of the things that I want Python to do, and it looks like ChatGPT can help me write this code, is I found, I think it's 12 massive CSV files. You guys know what a CSV file is? Shake your head, yes or no. Okay. So there's probably some people out there that don't know what a CSV file is. That's a comma separated value file. I think that's what it stands for. And you can load those files into Excel or into Google Sheets. You can export them easily from that. And so it's a way of moving data back and forth between databases and spreadsheets. And you can actually query CSVs, but from what I understand, it's better to put them into a database and then query the data. And so I found a government website that has 12 CSV files that contain over 11 million data points or business records on companies that received the PPP loans during COVID. And those that PPP database covers the entire United States, and it gives the business name, it gives how many employees they have, it gives their NIC or NAIC code, whatever it's called, their code for what industry they're in, and it tells how many jobs were saved, how many employees they had, and it also tells how much the loan amounts were and whether or not they were forgiven or not forgiven. And it gives a couple other pieces of information. But what it doesn't give me is it doesn't give me who the contact people are at the business. It doesn't give a phone number and no email addresses or websites. And so I've actually hired two people who are working for me full time, and they're pulling this information manually out of the database, putting it into an Excel spreadsheet, and then they're going out and doing internet searches to fill in that missing information. And so this is stuff that I should be able to program ChatGPT or one of the AI tools to do. But ChatGPT, being AI, and the other products that are out there currently, they have safety protocols to protect privacy. And what I found so far is that they won't give me publicly available information. So how many of you guys follow me on YouTube or LinkedIn or on the workplace at EXP? Anyone? Okay, Matt, thanks. So last Thursday, I did a webinar for the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce's Commercial Real Estate Committee. And so I went through and I demonstrated some tools like AutoGPT, being ChatGPT, just to show if you do searches for specific people's information, that the search results aren't necessarily correct. In fact, I did a search of my own information. I said, look, tool, and this is using AutoGPT, I believe. Have you guys heard of AutoGPT? Anyone? Nope. Okay. I would suggest that you do a Google search, do a YouTube search for AutoGPT, do a Bing AI search, learn a little bit about it. It's a fascinating tool because what it does is actually uses other tools. So it will actually, if you tell it to search for something and then do something with the information, it will go out, it'll employ Google to do a search. It'll employ other tools and then aggregate your data. And how many of you know what an API is? Anyone know what API is? Okay. So for those of you who don't know what an API is, an API is an application programming interface. That's what I'm pretty sure it stands for. And it basically allows programs to talk to each other by passing data back and forth between programs. So many of you have probably heard of Zapier. Little nods of the heads for Zapier. Yes. Okay. No. All right. Zapier is an automation tool to move information back and forth between programs. So it uses those APIs. And there's something called an API key, which is it's basically a permission showing that you have permission to access data, either to extract it or to write it. Make sense? So when you're using ChatGPT, you can go into the ChatGPT settings and you can say, I need an API key, so that you can plug it into different programs so that they can exchange what the data sets are that are available to be written to or to be extracted from. Make sense? Hopefully we're not getting too deep into the weeds, that people are following this. I really appreciate those of you who have your cameras turned on so I can see your facial expressions, and helps me know if I'm on target or not. So thanks guys for doing that. So anyhow, it's really fascinating to me looking at this stuff. So when Dan is talking about using Python, a programming language, it's pretty basic. A lot of people use it as a starting point for programming. And I've actually tested, hey, ChatGPT, write me a Python script to do this. And one of the other things that is really cool about using these AI tools is you can say, I don't know anything about Python. Act as a Python instructor and teach me the basics of what I need to install and use Python on my Windows 11 laptop computer. And it'll go through and it'll give you step-by-step instructions. It'll tell you you need a programming interface, something, some place to write your programs and execute them. And it'll give you step-by-step what to do. It's very, very cool. All right. So, Marshall, haven't heard from you yet today. I'd love to hear, where are you at with AI, and what's your vision for implementing it over the next month in your business? Do you have a vision for implementing it over the next month in your business?
Sure, I can't share too much because what we're doing right now is a little bit proprietary, but long story short, we're seeing really good results using AI. Particularly, I'm enjoying a new tool that just came out called Byword, Byword. It's similar to Jasper, if you guys have used that before, but to create like long tail SEO content. Of course, there's some concerns about like AI content penalties or something. Google's talked a little bit about it, but so far, first of all, the content is pretty easy to get by all of the AI filters that exist right now, which makes me think some of it maybe won't be that strictly penalized. And then also, I really think if the content itself is valuable, regardless of how it was created, AI or not, it will rank. So the trick that I'm running into, which I can't get too in depth on, is finding the right kind of long tail keywords to target, and then also being careful with the content creation pace. I'm working in this case on a newer website, and I'm pretty sure if it suddenly balloons to like 10,000 articles, that even if there's not an AI related penalty, Google might not take kindly to that if it looks a little shady. So you still have to make it look organic, but I'm starting to see some ways to create SEO friendly informational content, not marketing or sales. It's sucking at that, but informational content with long tail keywords using AI.
Yeah, that sounds very, very cool. That's exciting.
Hey, Chris, could
Yeah.
could you take it back to like the very granular, like the very beginning of Chat GPT? So is it like, was it created and owned by like a certain company, or like if you go out and search Chat GPT, could there be like different versions of it by different companies and some of it be like, bad? Like if you asked it to write code that it would write like bad code that would create viruses and stuff on computers, or different things like that? Or is it like some sort of, like generalized kind of safe thing to use? Like I'm not really sure how to ask the question.
You're doing a great job of asking the question, Matt. I really appreciate it. And so Google kind of had a monopoly on artificial intelligence programming and research over the last decade or so. They probably had from now I'm gathering this information. I've been looking at this quite a bit, and there's two really important things that I think you can look at that came out last week. One was an interview that Tucker Carlson did on Tucker Carlson Today with Elon Musk. And we all know about Elon Musk. What most people probably don't know is that OpenAI, the people who have ChatGPT 4, Elon Musk was one of the founders of that organization. And he put like $200 million of seed money in to found it as a nonprofit organization. And one of the things he talks about is that they transformed it from a nonprofit into a for-profit after he left. And he's not really happy the fact that he put all the seed money in and now people are becoming very wealthy from it. He's like, this was supposed to be a nonprofit to benefit humanity, not to benefit a few people. But one of the things that came out of OpenAI is they started getting a lot of these Google researchers and building their team. And then they managed to get Microsoft to invest like $10 billion into them earlier this year. And we don't know how much money Microsoft invested prior to making that announcement, because it's come out through the news that when Bing AI came out in February, that Bing AI was actually using ChatGPT 4 like almost a month before ChatGPT 4 was announced to the world. Does that make sense? And so what Microsoft did is they took the OpenAI code for ChatGPT 4, they built a different user interface to it, the Bing interface, and they put their own safeguards and their own qualifiers on how Bing would use the database and the large language model. It's called a large language model for accessing the information. So number one, that interview came out, I think it was last Monday. A lot of really good information. You can go to tuckercarlson.com and get a 30-day free trial to Fox Nation, so you can watch the interview for free. And what you do with it after that, that's up to you. But I think it's worth your while to go watch that interview. Okay. So like my wife and I, we have a difference of opinion on Tucker Carlson. I tend to like his interviews. She doesn't, you know? So it's up to you. I decided to go ahead and subscribe. So I got a deal on it. It's costing me like $4.99 a month or something. But
Hey, Chris,
yeah, Jeff.
not to interrupt you, but I just got a news flash that Carlson Tucker's last day was Friday.
Oh, really?
He's no longer on Fox, and I don't know if he'll be available any longer.
That's fascinating. We're just going to have to look at that. I haven't seen that news. All right. Thank you for that, Jeff. All right. Number two, 60 Minutes. We all have seen 60 Minutes, right? On CBS. And they did an interview with the president of Google. And they basically did an advertisement for Google and what Google is doing with artificial intelligence. It was really a puff piece. They did expose some of the unseemly part of AI, which was really fascinating because one of the things that they talked about is that they had the BARD, B-A-R-D, which is Google's AI program, their answer or their equivalent of ChatGPT from OpenAI. They had BARD do some queries for them, and in one of the queries, it cited books. And they went through while they were producing the segment, and they went to look up these books because they hadn't heard of them before, but they sounded like really cool books that they should know about. And the books didn't exist. The artificial intelligence program made up sites for a reference paper, basically. And so they called that hallucinating.
That's weird. That's what I did in college.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things that's really fascinating about artificial intelligence, and I saw a really good video on this over the weekend, and it was a PhD, a doctor who studies artificial intelligence. He's got a YouTube channel, and he went through and he did a visualization on how artificial intelligence is trained. And the fascinating thing about this, and you hear this from the OpenAI people, you hear this from the Google people, you hear this from the Microsoft people, you hear this from everyone who's in artificial intelligence, but they don't know how it actually works. They put all this data in and they tell a computer to go analyze the data and find connections between the data, but they don't actually know what the computers are doing with all that data. And a lot of times people are curious. So I hate it when my brain derails in the middle of a thought. You guys ever have that happen? And especially when you're talking, it's like, oh darn, I had this great thought and I can't remember what it was.
Is
Now,
that just because the technology is so layered? Like there's no one where they can take it back to, and they just keep adding layers onto it, so it's like complicated to understand.
you know, I don't really understand it all, but think of your human brain. People have been studying the human brain and how the brain works for, decades, hundreds of years, who knows? I mean, people have been interested in psychology, for thousands of years. And we still don't understand psychology and how the brain works and how it puts things together. And I think it's the same way with artificial intelligence. And when you look at what people are putting into the data dump for the connections that are being made, that's where you end up with some fascinating things. And where artificial intelligence, if you put a whole bunch of library of fiction into the data, and you put different data sources. Now, I think everyone understands and agrees that some data sources are better than others, correct? Everyone shake your head so I can see some yeses. And I think everyone agrees that everyone has a bias. People say, oh, I'm not biased. Liar. Everyone's biased. We all have a bias based on our upbringing, based on our worldview, based on a lot of different things. All right. And so a huge example that everyone is familiar with is the COVID vaccine. Where did COVID come from? There's a lot of theories, but then people started saying, well, this is the only theory that we're going to say is acceptable in society. So there was this slant and a bias, and now we're finding that a lot of that bias is factually incorrect, as new people are in charge and they're doing research and showing, well, here, look, this is what we saw. Okay. So we all have a bias. And what's fascinating is OpenAI, one of the biggest things that they use to train their artificial intelligence was Wiki. How many of you guys are familiar with the Wiki database? Okay. And so
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. So if you ever looked in Wikipedia, And this is one of the things they talk about on the 60 Minutes interview is they say, well, here's this great resource that we can trust because it's edited by people that we trust. But then you will look at who's editing and stuff. You can see that they have, hey, April, your mic. Let's mute that. Thank you. They have a definite bias. They have a definite slant to the worldview. You look at political donations coming out of the Silicon Valley, and the political donations are all slanted to one side. All right. And so it's fascinating looking at this stuff. And I'm not saying that you should agree or disagree with any one side. I'm just saying you should be aware that there is a bias to this. That's what I'm saying. Okay. So Matt, looks like, yeah, there's Matt. So he's off screen. Hoping that answers his question a little bit better. And who started that whole line of thought? Did I get where you guys wanted me to go with that? Or did I wander off into the weeds too much? Everyone's quiet. Okay.
I'm not speaking. All
what?
of it's good. I said I'm not speaking for everybody else, but it's all good for me because I'm not familiar with it at all. So, you know.
All right. Did that help you give a basis and an answer to your question, Matt?
Yeah, yeah. I think you were getting at you know, how it's complex and they're not like the people just aren't sure quite how it all works together.
It's true. Yeah. Dane, you've been quiet, but I've seen your facial expressions. They've been fun to watch. So what do you think about all this stuff?
Well, I'm the president of the local Toastmasters in my area. It's where we do some speeches and whatnot. And it just happens that our topic this week is AI.
Cool.
And I wanted to get some more information on this. I saw the 60 Minutes on the AI. What I am concerned about is the hallucinations that they came up with. And they did talk to the reporter there, and they came out with actually the wrong state that they asked about her. It came out that she was in the wrong, that she came from the wrong state. She says that was wrong. So the hallucinations, the misinformation, if we're going to be using this technology, it's still, we're representing that. So this misinformation, this will be part of us. And this is what I'm concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
If it came out with right information, well, we really need to watch over this. We need to, before we send it out, we really need to look at it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything that you produce using artificial intelligence, you need to review it personally and to make sure that it agrees with you and what you believe. Because it will, like I said, it's biased. It produces incorrect results based on bad data that it's been input into it. And I need to go back for just a second here. ChatGPT is a predictive engine, basically. It's looking at all this data it's been given, thousands and thousands of books, all these wiki articles, all kinds of other stuff that's been scraped off the internet, and it's using it to predict what comes next. And so, Dane, being in Toastmasters, I was in Toastmasters. I was a district manager or something. I don't forget what the name was. I oversaw like 5 clubs. And we did a lot competitions, regional competitions and stuff. And so I was involved in some of those. And one of the competitions that I thought was a lot of fun was extemporaneous speaking, where you go up on stage, they say, here is your topic. You have 30 seconds to think about your topic, and then you have to give like a 2 or 3 minute speech. You're familiar with that, right, Dave?
Table topics.
Yep. Table topics. And so basically you can think about it for a second, and then you have to start speaking. And as you're speaking, you're thinking about what you're talking about. I mean, just like what I'm doing today with you guys, right? I had no idea what you guys want to talk about. So we're just talking. And as I'm talking, I'm probably repeating myself. I'm probably saying some things that are kind of silly because I haven't had time to think through it. But we're moving in a direction, and hopefully it makes a little bit of sense based on all the experience and knowledge that I have accumulated over the last 60 years, right? And so that's what ChatGPT is doing, is it's using this, and it doesn't know what it's going to answer at the end of the answer when it starts the answer. And so one of the things that I think is really fascinating is now they're building into ChatGPT. Terrence, please close your mic. They're building into it the ability so that you can ask it to answer, put the answer into memory, and then say, analyze your first answer to make a better answer. And you can go through multiple iterations. And part of what each of us, I think, needs to do is ask the artificial intelligence questions, look at what it says, and then say, based on what you said before, make these modifications and give me a new answer based on these modifications. Have you guys done that yet? Where you're actually asking ChatGPT or Bing AI or whatever to look at an answer it's given you and then give you a better answer or a different answer afterwards?
I certainly have. I have a question about when I was doing this, I don't know, a month or two ago, they had information from years back. It was like maybe a server. It wasn't on the internet, and it was amazing what it could do then. But I think that I've heard since then that they have made it sort of live, so it can pull from real time information via the internet. Is that the case now? Is that correct?
Okay. So for those of you who subscribe and have a paid subscription to ChatGPT, it's like $20 a month. You can now use the latest version, ChatGPT 4, instead of 3.5, which is available to the free accounts. And you can use what are called plugins. So it's kind of like a plugin that you put into Chrome or Microsoft Edge or whatever it is, right? Into your browser extensions. And so now you can put these extensions in, and it will, one of the extensions is to access the internet live. So it basically uses like Bing AI or Google search to get current information to augment the data it was trained on. Now, this is a fascinating concept. All this data that it was trained on so that it could predict, right? And so it doesn't actually need more data to give good results based on new information, because it's using all the data that it had before to say, oh, here's predictions I would make based on this huge data set. And now I'm given new data. Say you give it the link to a current website and say, for example, last week when I was talking to the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Commercial Real Estate Group, I did a thing where I actually had Bing AI go out and look at a website on a piece of commercial property that was for sale. And I said, based on the data that's at this web address, write a blog post. And the Bing AI looked at the data on this piece of commercial real estate, and it wrote a blog piece for a commercial real estate to promote that property. And it did a really good job. But anytime you do something like that, like we said, you need to go through and read it and make sure it's accurate, because it will get creative. And one of the things that most people, I don't know if they know it or not, is that the creativity can be either turned up or turned down like a volume knob. So it has a scale from like 0 to 1 or something like that. And you can, where at one end of the scale, it's very regimented based on the data, here's the answer, versus on the other end, it's like, based on the data, I'm creating an answer. kind of like writing a story about it or whatever. In fact, you can tell ChatGPT, write me a story about a penguin meeting a tiger. And there's very few places on earth where penguins can meet tigers, right? I mean, in the zoo, and that's pretty much it, right? And it'll write stories about a penguin meeting a tiger. Really, really interesting. And one of the examples they gave on the 60 Minutes piece was, what was it? Hemingway, I think it was. It was like 6 words. They were 2 words sets. Baby shoes for sale, something. I can't remember what the other set of words was. And on the piece, they said, write me a story based on these words. And it wrote a great story. It was very moving. All right. Did that help you? And Dane, did we finish our conversation?
Yes, I believe so. It's just like table topics, we're allowed to embellish.
Exactly.
And, you know, that's part of the, I guess, the human nature. We just have to look at that there is, like engineers, and we like to see ourselves as our engineer in us, where we can analyze and make sure everything is correct.
Well, and think of the data that's out there. It's being fed both fiction, nonfiction. It looks at things from different biases, and it can't tell the difference between what's real and what's not real. Kind of like when you wake up in the morning after you had a dream, and you say, wow, that dream seems so real to me. It's almost like it happened. I could taste things, I could smell things, everything was in color. It's like that dream seems so real. And then it was based on something that happened in your life. And maybe you're like, well, which part of that was reality? Which part of it was what I wanted it to be? Right?
Yeah, it's just that AI in real time is not, I don't think it's there right now. I think it needs to be looked at by us before it goes out.
Absolutely. So when I first started playing with ChatGPT, I wanted to look at bias. And so what I did is I said, ChatGPT, write me a 500-word essay on why Joe Biden should be reelected president of the United States. And it wrote me a 500-page essay. And then I said, change the words, and I said, use the exact same query, except I put Donald Trump in there. And it came back and said, sorry, I can't answer political questions and take a biased approach. And then when I requeried it and said, okay, from the perspective of a Trump supporter, write me this, what they would say in it, and give me 500 words, and it would only give me 350 words. It was really fascinating. So there's definitely implicit bias built into the data set and to how they're making it. One of the things that Elon Musk talked about in his interview with Tucker Carlson is, and they said this in 60 Minutes too, that the AI lies. It's been trained to lie to us. Okay, like social media is manipulating humanity for an outcome based on the overlords of social media, right? I think we all agree with that. Or am I just a conspiracy theorist? So the same tech people basically in the Silicon Valley are controlling artificial intelligence. And Elon said that he wants to make an unbiased thing. And I don't know if we can believe Elon or not. I think that he's kind of proven himself to want to unmask a lot of this stuff that's corrupt that's happening in the background. And he's calling it Truth GPT. So it'll be really interesting to see what comes out, if it comes out, when it comes out, and is it things that we can put some faith into or not. Does that help? Okay. All right. April, you've been quiet today. You want to chime into our conversation?
Sure. Good day, gentlemen. I was actually quiet earlier because I was on the road, but I wanted to make sure I made the meeting.
Welcome back.
So thank you. Thank you. The topic of discussion has been very intriguing and interesting. I was thinking back, it was in December of 2019, I was at a seminar. It was the end of the year. And during that seminar, the conversation was around AI. And it was pretty much mentioned that within the next 5 years, AI was definitely going to explode. And here we are, fast forward 3.5 years later, and we're talking about Chat GPT. So, what I'm gathering out of this is just based on what I heard then and what I'm seeing now, is this is something that is definitely here to stay, and avoidance is not an option, which means if I want to keep up with the competition in the future, this is something that I've got to grasp and get engaged. And so I am glad that I am on this call, and hearing the different viewpoints and ideas. And it's just really, the information has strengthened me, as my mindset, as far as, April, this is not something that you can ignore. And Chris, your explanations for the different things that you spoke about thus far has been right on point. You almost losing me a little bit, but I stuck in there. And
We all have bias, and it affects our
listen,
worldview, and hopefully we're able to have a conversation where we can understand that everyone's coming from a different perspective and we can still like each other.
yeah. And when Dan mentioned the Python, I was like, what is he talking about? And
Yeah,
then you came in and you broke it down. So I, I I'm enjoying this, and I definitely see the need for me to do more than be an outsider looking in. I've got to get engaged.
great. So if you don't mind, I'm going to pop off of what you just said and give you some more context, okay?
Okay.
Think about, a lot of people are really concerned, right? They're like, AI is going to take my job away. But I don't look at AI as taking your job away. I look at AI as augmenting you so that it will help you compensate for your limitations. Does that make any sense?
It
Because
does.
when you consider IQ, um, and I don't know what the numbers are off the top of my head, but if you have an IQ of 210, I think that's what Einstein's was like 210. And what is it? With Mensa, you have to have an IQ of like 190 or better, something like that, to be a Mensa member. And at the other end of the spectrum, you got people who have an IQ of like 70 and they're mentally challenged, is the way that we consider them, right? Hopefully I'm using the politically correct terms there. Um, but the point is, if you look at the IQ of ChatGPT, it's like 1100. Okay. Right now, artificial intelligence is smarter than anyone who has ever lived. As far as being able to query, being able to put things together, AI has already taken molecules and invented new molecules that can be used for medicine. Or on the other hand, because it's just a tool, that same it could be looking for molecules in the wrong people's hands to destroy humanity, right? It can create viruses, it can create chemical warfare, all kinds of stuff. So AI is simply a tool. Think back to 200 years ago, life in America, there were no machines. There were horses. There were plows that were being pulled behind horses. There were people with shovels. Okay, that's how, and 98% of people in America were farmers. Now we're down to like 5% of people in America who are farmers because of the tools that are being used. I grew up on a farm. All right. We went from 60 acres of land when I was in fifth grade to when I graduated college, we were up to 3,000 acres of land. And it was farmed by my mom, my dad, my brother, and I. That was it. There were four of us. My brother is a Southwest Airlines captain, so he has a full-time job, and he has a farm. He farms 1,000 acres of rice, very intense crop. But because of the machinery that he has, my brother, his wife, and his children, and his daughter, who's 21 years old, is a co-pilot for Frontier Airlines. Okay, I think she was the youngest person ever to get her 737 type rating.
Wow.
And like the youngest person ever, because she was hired like on her birthday. I mean, certified on her birthday to fly as a co-pilot. There's a different word, but anyhow, to be a co-pilot in the crew of a major airline. Okay, I mean, crazy stuff. But when you look at what technology is done in other parts of life and how it leverages people, if you take technology and you learn how to use AI, you can outcompete people. I look at artificial intelligence as being a great equalizer for people who use it. So it's kind of like you can take someone who has no legs and you put them in a car and they can go just as fast as anyone else who has a car. It's a question of how capable is the car that they're driving. Make sense? And the skill that they have as a driver. All right, we've got 5 minutes left to wrap this up. And in the 5 minutes, what I'd like to hear is I'd like to hear from you guys. What are you going to do this week? What are you going to do this week to learn more about AI or to implement AI in your business? Kathy, you've been very quiet today. I'm going to ask you to start, okay?
Okay. I agree with April that, AI is here to stay, and I agree with what you're saying. And I've already started to use it. I'm not good at it. I'm not a computer person, but I'm learning.
Okay, perfect. Art, we haven't heard from you today. Do you mind?
Yeah, no problem. How you doing? Thanks for sharing this information. I think it's very beneficial, especially some of us more seasoned people that like technology. But I've been using some Zapier stuff like that, investigating the chat GPI as far as writing some text, some emails. But what I'm really looking into right now, and don't know if you know anything about this, is Auto GPT. Because my understanding is, if I understand the concept of GPT, is Auto GPT actually has an internet presence.
Yeah.
Requires a little bit of Python, but it seems to be almost like supercharged versus the Chat GPT. So I guess I'm exploring that to see. Like you just said, I'd rather have rather than have a Ford, I'd rather have a Corvette taking me down the road. So
Exactly.
don't know if
Exactly.
that's the right analogy, but
And
so
I'm looking to acquire a Ferrari, actually. That and a
nice.
really qualified diesel 4x4 pickup, maybe for heavy duty stuff.
Hey, you're
So
talking
you
to an
need a sports
old
car.
Chevy guy here, man. Old Chevy guy here, So
Yeah. Well,
so that's where.
I've got an F-250 turbo diesel 4x4. So,
There
and I
you
got the
go.
old engine in it, so it's more capable.
No, I wish I still had my old '69 Chevelle Super Sport with a 396. So
Cool. All right.
no,
Terrence. Terrence has been there lurking in the background. I haven't seen his picture. Are you there? Can you comment?
Yeah, I've been driving during this entire time. But this chat GPT is so vast. Just really trying to scratch the surface of it. I'm pretty good at writing, using it to write articles and things of that nature, but just trying to use it to, like you say, try to have an internet presence. Is that the auto chat? I heard bits and pieces of some things while I was driving, but
Yeah.
I would like to be able to use it better to have more of an online presence, if that makes sense.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to put into the chat real quick so that you guys can see it. And I've enabled so that you can copy the chat. You can download it to a file. I just put a link to my YouTube channel. I launched my YouTube channel on Valentine's Day this year. When I looked yesterday, I think I was up to 91 subscribers, which was very cool. I'm very happy about that. And it's been difficult building that channel. And so I also did a LinkedIn thing. And so I've got some articles up on LinkedIn. I started my own blog on a website. But I would encourage you guys to take a look at my YouTubes. I just posted over the weekend, yesterday, the meeting that I did last week with the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Commercial Real Estate Division. And so you can go, you can watch that. You can see links to other things. And I really appreciate everyone today who's come out. And does anyone have a last thought? We got like 2 minutes left. I don't want to, if someone has something that they've been dying to say, I want to give you one last opportunity here. Dan, your mic is open. You have something on your mind?
I'm good. Thank you for all the help. This has been great.
Jeff? Your mic is closed.
I'm good. I just all this technology, how does it help improve our day-to-day commercial business?
Yeah. Go watch the YouTubes that I've written or recorded so far. I've only got like 6 of them up there, but most of them focus on artificial intelligence just because of my background. April, you opened your mic. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I did. So I just wanted to put it out there when you mentioned people who think about or feel that the AI is going to take away jobs. During that same seminar, it was shared that there will be jobs that will be taken away. However, those occupations that have to deal with the theater, the arts, feelings and emotions, dealing with people, AI does not have feelings and emotions. So you can have your college age family members as they're going into college, have them pick a skill that can't be done by a computer, and so they'll be more successful, possible. But anyway, just wanted to throw that out there.
Leveraging off what you just said, April, as a closing thought, and then we'll stop because it's 10 o'clock. And that is, everyone needs to learn what's called prompt engineering. Mm-hmm. And prompt engineering is really boils down to learn to ask better questions. And I think that people, all of us, as business brokers, that's really a critical central component to our success in what we do every day, is learning to ask other people better questions and learn to ask computers and the artificial intelligence better questions, more creative questions. And if you watch the videos that I posted up on YouTube, you'll see I spend a lot of time talking about asking better questions. And for kids in college and stuff, I mean, the opening positions for prompt engineering are starting in 6 figures. And they're going up into like 350 per year to be a prompt engineer for a tech company. I mean, there's jobs open. And just like when we moved from horse and buggy and it put the blacksmiths out of business, basically, the same thing is going to be happening in our society. Is there's jobs that are going to be coming that we have no idea what those jobs are going to be. They're going to be exciting and fulfilling. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And I look forward to seeing you at our next session. Take care.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.